just know Ms. Lawson is virtual, but she does this for informational purposes only. Mr. Myers?
Here.
Ms. Miller, present. Ms. Oden? Mr. Salter?
Here.
We have 6 present, which does represent 1.
All right, thank you. Introductions and announcements. You'd like to start?
Yes, there are some that are on your agenda with pictures. These are hot off the press. I would like our newest IT director, as you know, Ms. Brown retired, and we are very pleased that we are working to restructure our IT group such that it is more collaborative across divisions as we did with our CASC and SC group, which has been a great success. So David Whitworth, please stand as our newest IT director. Dr. Estee is going to stand as our newest director of RBI. Wow, is going to stand as our team lead of programming. Launch things build, write and launch programs, but that data should go somewhere, as into a public facing view. We are building dashboards that you are going to be very impressed with. I saw them for the first time and they are extremely impressive, that our policy makers, stakeholders, and just inquiry minds who want to know what are the makeups of the folks that receive our awards. So there has to be a programming lead in the middle, right? So that the programming data that comes from running the programs moves seamlessly to the business intelligence and seamlessly out to our stakeholders. So we are doing a new team approach. None of them ran away yesterday when I described it, but at the first meeting and they came downstairs. I'm going to take that as a yes, that they can do. So thank you.
The next one is Ms. Shirley, Administrative Assistant.
Good, I'm here.
The fiscal team must have welcomed Shirley again. She retired from the Division of Administration, but lucky for LOSFA, she got bored. And she's going to be helping us out with Administrative Services Division, with document imaging, inventory management, and other projects. Ms. Shirley is also the mother of Karen Skin, one of our former crossover patients who some of you may know. So we want to welcome Ms. Shirley. Do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Welcome to Shirley.
Shirley's not with us right now, but she has been an advocate thus far to our city.
If you want to know why with this picture of the steer in the background, we do want that.
The legal team is happy to have Brian Norris as our new student intern. This past legislative session, a bill was passed that requires all agencies to review all of their administrative rules within 5 years. As y'all know, we have lots of those. Brian is intending to go to law school in the future. So as an intern, I thought that this would be a fabulous experience for him to start with some of our smaller programs. Obviously, I and our other 2 attorneys will also be looking at these, but he is also updating some legislative tracking documents that we do. Prior to his LOSFA, Brian was a Senate aide and he is a student at ULL. And I will say he is performing very well. His first project was to update the tracking documents with all of the bills from last session for all of our programs, as well as update some things with Jay Foster and the ABLE program and K-12. He finished those projects in 3.5 days, which I thought would be a 2-week project. Of course, he was not in it when it was happening. So he has shown that he is very capable young man, and we are very happy to have him. He is not with us today. That's something we have to take care of this morning, but I feel like he is going to be a major asset to our departments.
And how long is the internship? Will he be here?
And he will be here a year if he is able to do so with his schedule.
And this is part of LOSFA. We can't say that We want to encourage experiential learning. Connected to, if this is what you think you want to do, then get some experiential learning in it. And how is that connected to financial aid? We're not advocating for free internships, right? Students need those sources of income, so we want those sources of income to be aligned to a real job and something that they are excited or think that they want to do. So we feel as though if we can't do that ourselves, right, then how can we ask business and industry to partner with us to offer those internships to other students on a broader basis? So we're very excited to do this.
Thank you.
Now we have the approval of minutes, the minutes are in. And motion previously, so we take a moment and now a motion to approve the minutes.
I so move.
Please, second, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Motion passes. So now we're going to go into any public comment. Public comment. All right, now we are into program updates.
Good morning. As you'll notice, we have some of our numbers up here. This is the latest numbers from the end of July. The numbers that were included in your packets were the end of June, so these are the latest and greatest. We're getting close to 85,000 accounts total and 1.6 billion dollars in assets. Wanted to go over a couple things that we're really excited about. From calendar year 22 to calendar year 23, we had a 24% increase in overall disbursements for START programs. Disbursements for July of last year, we were at 18.8 million for that month. For July of 24, we were at 21.8 million, so a 2 million increase over the course of the year. Also, I wanted to mention, those of you that are familiar with the Secure 2.0 Act, we began doing Roth IRA rollovers in January of this year, from 529 to a Roth. We've so far from January through July, we've had 40 of those in the amount of $240,000. So we're very excited. The account owners are excited to be able to utilize those funds for people who have aged out that aren't continuing their education and such. And it worked for greater good for them. They're able to utilize those funds in an IRA. So excited. Y'all have any questions about anything? All right, thank you.
So Ebony is at the SHIO conference, so I will be handling both again. I had a little bit more notice than 20 minutes like last time. So. All right, so for our events and assistance, so we have restarted our count on July 1, but from July 1, 2023 to the end of June 2024, we had 636 events. That's virtual and face-to-face. Right now, from July 1, we are at 81 events total. For virtual assistance, the total for that, 383, I think that's what it says over there. Yeah, I have a screen here. And so right now, from July 1, we are at 39 total virtual office hours. For our media mentions, we have had interviews, mostly dealing with FAFSA. Ebony spoke with the advocate. We had an interview about the Foster Promise with Brittany Terrio from Scholarships and Grants with the Louisiana Radio Network. We also were interviewed by KNOE about the FAFSA and the Go FAFSA tour. Yeah, as well. Ebony did the interview for that also. For outreach, there's a SHIO case study. So Louisiana participated in that, represented by Ebony and Kylie. And so they were just talking about various practices that we have about how we assist students and parents with the FAFSA policies, how that impacts how we assist students with the FAFSA. And even though we no longer have the FAFSA mandate here, we're still discussing how we're moving forward in the same manner as we were before, with or without mandate, and how we're going to assist students with the creation of the FAFSA. I believe the link to the case study is also in your files as well. So we had April and Danielle who attended part of the NASA pre-conference, Breaking Barriers, Bridging Worlds and Prison Education and Student Advising. This is part of the grant that we got, the Ascendian Fellowship Program, that helps supplement a lot of the work that we're trying to do, new developments, new programs, new resources, to work with the justice impacted student population. So they were able to meet different practitioners in this area, meet students who are justice impacted, seeing how they were able to be assisted, developing what best practices are that we can implement here at the agency, looking at different resources and tools that have been used to recruit these students, to prepare them for whatever career path it is that they choose, and how they can identify wraparound services and financial aid in order to help students achieve their goals. ECMC FAFSA Student Support Strategy Project. So we received funds from this. We have our Go FAFSA campaign, and so we were able to utilize this for promotions and support from us to directly contact students who have FAFSA errors, who have not submitted the FAFSA yet. We have promotional items that will direct students, which we can give handouts for those to promote our tool that we use, Wyatt, and that's our virtual FAFSA advisor, directs them to LOSFA's FAFSA page where they can access all the support resources that they need in order to submit a FAFSA. And so this is something that we're really excited about. We have a digital marketing campaign going on as well, and all of that is directing students and parents to GoFAFSA.org page, which is LOSFA's FAFSA assistance page. Lafayette Day Reporting Center's graduation ceremony. This is part of our outreach for the justice impacted students. And so April and Chelsea participated in that with graduates and shared information to them about the ways that LOSFA can assist them after they graduate from these programs to transition back into the workforce. We attended the Black Male Summit, which is hosted by the University of Louisiana system. Brian and Darius were there. We had, of course, booths sharing information about lots of resources and programs. And we also facilitated a presentation to over 250 high school students who were there about TOPS and FAFSA. So this is the second year that we have been invited to participate in the Black Male Summit. This relationship that we're really excited about. Feel we have a lot of impact there, and we'll continue that relationship going forward. Grambling State University's oral orientation, Haley attended that and was able to share information with over 200 students and family members there about the top scholarship, additional resources that are available through LOSFA, Start Saving program, and of course promoting our comprehensive advising services. She also met one-on-one with students as well afterwards about ACT scores, missing FAFSA forms, issues with their transcripts that can cause processing delays. Haley and Delrisha also attended the mayor's Unity Fest for the Juneteenth celebration. Shared a lot of information about our programs and Jake Foster Promise, TOPS, START, our other 529 saving programs, and of course information about our comprehensive advising services and the FAFSA completion assistance that we provide as well. And so they met with 60 community members there, discussing different things that we have here available in LOSFA. And from that, another event was actually scheduled for us to work with members of the community and figure out ways that we can provide outreach events and support partnerships with LOSFA. So we have wrapped up our TOPS information webinar series. Remember, this is the first year that we have done public-facing TOPS webinars. We usually do them, high schools or post-secondary institutions or organizations. This is the first time that we have scheduled them and promoted them to the general public, where they can attend. You get all of their questions answered that they have about TOPS. So we will continue doing this. We'll continue identifying other programs that we can do basic webinars with as well. So they learned about potential requirements, what processing looks like, the different board levels, eligibility requirements, and of course the student hub. So more than 192 students, parents, and school representatives and counselors attended the sessions that were on May 30th to 11th to 27th in July. We had the Second Chance Job Fair. April and Damien represented LOSFA there. It's hosted by the Lafayette Economic Development Authority. And so it's open to the public and it's geared towards the justice involved from incarcerated student population. And so providing information about job opportunities that were available, resources, it's a loss to share programs we have available, FAFSA assistance, information about the J. Foster Promise program, and our comprehensive advice and our justice impact resources that we have. And so losses worth 12 currently incarcerated individuals will be released within the next 30 days. And so we continue to sort of form a pipeline of students every time we go to these events where they get funneled into working with our non-traditional student outreach coordinators, and Danielle in her capacity as well is also assisting with that. And so we're getting more and more of these students who are utilizing our services and our advising services as well. ECMC, and so Vice President for Student Success and Outreach at ECMC contacted us asking about a partnership with Progressive National Baptist Convention. And so connected us with them, and so we are going to be hosting a FAFSA completion event at their annual session in the fall. And so we are continuing to see more and more of this, partners that we have, connecting us with other partners, doing more outreach events and more of one-on-one completion events. So learning more about our programs, we continue to promote our comprehensive value services, and of course, you know, the FAFSA completion events that we have. That's part of our continuing strategy of what is it that we're going to do. We no longer have a mandate to ensure that everyone has access to the services and support they need to submit their FAFSA. So partnership update. So a couple slides got blended together. I believe it starts here. So let me switch to my paper version so that I can say the right thing. Slide disappeared. So for Goodwill Industries, April and Danielle facilitated a webinar titled Louisiana Student Support Services Assisting Prospective and Enrolled Students Impacted by the Justice System. And so Goodwill is providing a network of local organizations that help people find jobs, learn new skills, and donate goods. And so we presented the services that we provide helping this student population to Goodwill Industries. The Louisiana Workforce and Social Services Reform Task Commission, we were invited to participate in that as well. So the task force is responsible for studying how to create a true one-stop, one-door for Louisiana. So different services and programs and resources that are available. And so, you know, always continuing to try to figure out what is the best way to provide a portal, essentially, where any resulting those resources can find them easily. So that's what we're looking at with what we're doing 2.1. And so as these opportunities present themselves, we always appreciate being invited in to participate in that, to make sure that we're part of the services that are being showcased and provided. So LHC Group had their Employee Health Wellness Symposium. So Tanya and Chelsea and Trudy participated in that. They traveled to the LHC Group corporate office in Lafayette, presented at their wellness symposium, shared information about LOSFA's programs and services with LHC employees. When we work with our business partners, we want to highlight what it is that LOSFA can do. So LOSFA can either work with the employees or with the employees' families on FAFSA completion, college application, learning more about what they need to do for TOPS, and then of course we promote our 529 safety programs as well. What we're really trying to do is to set up that that enrollment where they can do a direct deposit from their paycheck to their 529 account. And so hopefully it can be a little tricky, as Terry knows, as we discussed, as we try to do that. But that is a goal moving forward as we work with more partners, is trying to get that set up, just so we can grow those accounts. For our social media update, for our impressions, the impressions are made up of the numbers that are from Instagram and from X. Remember, it does not count Facebook because we only get the numbers for paid advertising for Facebook. Also, there has been an update with the information that we'll be getting from X. We will not be able to access it anymore without any paid account. We'll discuss whether or not we're going to do that. So it becomes a little bit more where we have to pay to get the numbers, but we'll continue to share the numbers that we get, and we'll discuss what that needs to look like, with paid advertising. Yeah, so impressions, that's the number of times the content is displayed on the screen or device. That's at 19,680. The total reach, that's the number of individuals who saw the content. So we're at 145,000. And then our total engagement, that's the number of interactions, likes, shares, comments, etc. That is made up of Instagram and Facebook, and the reach is made up of Instagram and Facebook as well. So it's not all pulling from the same place. Some of it pulls from one place, some of it pulls from another. So we can't see what it pulls because it doesn't tell us unless we pay for it. But reach is really a good indicator of seeing how far what we're sharing on our social platforms is going, because that tells us the number of individuals who saw the content. For our posts, TOPS informational webinars, Student Help Campaign, MJ Foster Promise Program, those are our most popular posts that we have had since the beginning of May until the end of July. And so our followers for Facebook, we are at over 2,000, over 2,000 for X, and then 2,371 on Instagram. We're seeing a little bump on Instagram, but still not where we want it to be. But we have our new digital media specialist that has recently joined. We'll be hiring another digital media specialist also. Part of their focus is going to be growing our social media following. So for our reach to go where it is, so for us to only have less than around 55,000 followers between Facebook and Instagram, for us to get 145,000 reach, that is people sharing our information, their friends seeing the information that's being shared. So at least a lot of eyes are being on our social media posts. For the website, this is from the beginning of May until the end of July also. Of course, the Student Hub is now on the top page traffic due to processing, getting ready for the fall semester to begin. Facebook looks like our biggest referral, and niche.com as well. Organic traffic continues to be the largest way that people find it. So that means they type in some sort of question about something pertaining to financial aid, and they find our website that way. And then second is direct. If they type in LOSFA.gov. So we are at during that period, over 300,000 page views, 138,000 sessions, and almost 90,000 users. So sessions, that is going to be the individual sort of visits that the total users have done. So users seeing that, it means that they've gone to our site one time. So that's from the time that they log into our site, go to our site, visit all the pages that they want. That counts as one session. So page views is a little misleading. That anytime you go back or forward again, that counts as a separate page view. But sessions really gives you an idea of how many times our site is. And that's all I have. Any questions, comments, myths, rumors? All right.
Ms. Shirley again is here now, and she would like to say a few words.
So much to work with it and we thank you so much forward to it. And it seems
Since Ms. Lobami is presenting virtually, I'll just sit here and slide.
All right, good morning. I'm presuming that's my cue. Hope all is well. Can you all hear me good?
yes.
Awesome, awesome. The progression of those slides indicate that we are making a good audio connect. Again, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to present virtually here. I did see a question. Okay. So I just want to start off, as we've been doing in the student engagement portions of our updates is keeping you guys abreast of what our comprehensive advising services are looking like. Again, last month, July, marked the 1-year anniversary that we went live with Availing Comprehensive Advising. In November of 2023, we went live with our Salesforce platform. So the slides that I want to open up with for this month's presentation update, it gives you a count of all referrals from actually July 1. So we imported those cases that we were servicing until the case management system became operational. And so the count that you're seeing here of 889 is as of July 29th of this year. Now, we're already August 7th, and that number is now exceeding over 950 as of yesterday. So what does that speak about? The word is out. Students are utilizing it, and our dynamic team of comprehensive advisory officers that we have, again, we have 10 as of now, we are steadily at work here. You will see the number of 33 cases on hold. Let me clarify that. That is because of the nature, the construct of, again, our cross-divisional work that we're doing with CASC, SE, SG, and legal. Those cases that we are needing to work across sections, we're putting those on hold to allow those collaborations there. So these may be cases that are been sent up to scholarships and grants for billing purposes, or there might be some IT related issues. So I just wanted to justify that number of 33 cases that you see there that are reflected as being on hold. Ron, if you can advance the next slide, it really just shows what our activity looks like for the month of July. Going to the next slide. So there is a difference in 31 cases from what you're seeing year to date, July 29th, and the month of July. Again, I emphasize that because our referrals, they're steadily coming in, even more so with the start of another academic year. Financial aid options has become and remains the central paramount reason for referrals. So our issues are generally scholarship and grants related, students needing to see additionally how they can sustain and support their matriculation through and through. So these first two slides was just to give you through July for this month's reporting. I'm just as a prelude to what's to come. Our spotlight for the month will give you a little deeper dive of those cases that ended through June 30th. So I'll just put a pause on that portion there for later. Next slide, Rhonda, please. Speaking about our comprehensive advising, and you heard Shane make reference to the year-to-date fiscal year ending June 30th. I think it was a tune of 636 events that LOSFA participated in. Of those 636 events, 325 were covered by our student engagement division. In this particular slide, we chose to highlight because we're noticing in our LOSFA 2.0 configuration, our outreach events are becoming more non-traditional, meaning not only are we just going to high schools or to college campuses for browse sessions or FAFSA completions, but our CAOs, our outreach personnel, are finding very creative ways of engaging with the community into a broader audience. Here in this photo, we have Christy Clark, who is in the northwest port of our state. She chose to participate and has been attending very regularly some farmers markets in their area and getting some good responses, connecting with students and parents, promoting LOSFA services, but also, believe it or not, connecting students and helping them resolve some of their cost of attendance or scholarship issues as well. So just wanted to transfer that because we've also discovering that a lot of our referrals are coming from just the traditional farmers market, hint, red stick, right, Dr. Boutte? I'll pause there, but nonetheless, we are finding our students in these non-traditional settings. Next slide, please.
Don't forget the barbershop for her who takes haircut that much. I just got to be
But again, it goes to the outreach that LOSFA now has been extending itself to. Again, over the summer months, just want to even reiterate, we had a host of faith-based organizations that were doing a lot of vacation Bible schools. So we were going into those populations as well, those gatherings. On this particular slide, we are seeing where, again, over the summer and as we prepare for the fall, a lot of the institutions are doing their orientations and browse sessions. So our CAOs are even extending themselves there. On this particular side, we see engagement with McNeese State, LSUS, but it spans the gambit of 2-year, 4-year public and proprietary schools. Next slide. On this particular one, Shane mentioned about LOSFA receiving funding for the Go FAFSA tours. And so we were able to assist with that and making sure that we had coverage of personnel. On these slides, you see again the span of space that we have done FAFSA completion events, whether it be at a public library, within a community, again, a non-traditional location outreach, or at our 2-year or 4-year institutional campuses there. So again, the photo to the left, we have our Chelsea Gallo Hopkins I would like to highlight, but in the middle we have our newest CAO who has been spending her recent weeks shadowing, and she's near the point of beginning to cover some of the events herself. To the right is our Damien Papillon that is serving at a UL browse session, Lafayette browse session. Next slide. So we are happy to announce that as we get ready to gear up for the fall semesters of academia, the student network groups, again, if you notice, I didn't particularly report on them this month because we were in hiatus for July preparing for our fall iteration, our fall schedule. So we are launching on August 19th in 2 more Mondays, our kickoff with another series of connecting students to each other, connecting them to their resources, scholarships, and supports, and then connecting them to professionals within their field of study. We're excited to launch yet our newest student network group, something that we were very intentional about creating in that back in March, we held a webinar just to kind of test the waters and gauge what interest there would be in designing and implementing a student network group to support and grow Louisiana's pipeline of mental health professionals. So with our kickoff on August the 19th, we are launching the Behavioral Health Profession Student Network Group. We highlight that word profession in this discipline to make sure that we differentiate between the fact that we're not seeking to do intervention, but we are seeking to support those who are preparing themselves to deliver intervention. So that's the difference that we have in this particular group. So again, August the 19th, we are kicking off another series for the fall. Next slide. And of showing the proof of concept that we continue to follow here, we talked about the importance of our student network groups in connecting students to each other, the resources and their professionals that are in their field. As a result of our 2024 completion celebration that we had in June, the president of Delta College, Mr. Billy Clark, attended because we had one of our graduates that we were acknowledging come from his campus, a nursing student. He was so impressed with the outcome of what we were celebrating that he invited us to present to his staff, his administration, so that they can further promote the groups within their campuses. What birthed and spawned from that connect was now an ongoing partnership where they will be inviting our student engagement, our CAOs, to present to their students, to make their students aware of the services. Again, proprietary campus, right? But also, they are also seeking, because of our partnership with LHC Group, to seek how they can connect students in those, what they're calling affiliation agreements. So our next step in this connect is to bridge that. So whereby, as we providing and support to students 2 and 3 through connecting them to resources, but seeing that end goal of connecting them with assistance through their colleges to employers. Next slide. All right, you heard Shane made reference to the symposium that we participated with at LHC Group. The reason why we're repeating this slide and showing further photos of that event was to, again, draw reference to that partnership that's in its third years. But as referenced, our two CAOs, Chelsea and Trudy, that accompanied our employer engagement coordinator, Tanya, to this event. We wanted our CAOs to be aware of the extent of our partnerships. So as they are connecting with students individually or within small groups through the student network groups, they know the extent and are better informed of how to connect students to internships and employment opportunities that await them. What I'm excited about with this partnership is that beyond what Shane has already identified, where we have the benefit for employers and then also to the employees, we are preparing to go back in the fall to do an on-site FAFSA completion, FAFSA information event with those LHC Group employees, of which span 350 persons were at this particular event. Why? Because we recognize those employees have children that may be enrolling, are preparing to enroll. And so we're bridging that connect there through this partnership, but yet identifying ways to strengthen it and continue to keep it very fluid and very static. Next slide. As I wrap up this portion, I definitely want to draw attention to the work of our employee and customer engagement specialist, Jenny Miller, is doing. Again, she coordinated with her committee yet an awesome activity with our backpack project. This has been the largest participation that we've had as far as even items that were donated. As you see, we doubled what we had in previous years. About 2,767 items collected and were distributed to, we were targeting 4 schools, but because of the quantity, we had enough to do over 200 packets. We had identified a 5th school of which these items were distributed. So kudos to the team. Want to say congratulations to our CAST division who won the challenge and was able to contribute to the success of this overall project there. Next slide. I think this concludes my portion. Any questions that either of you may have?
Yeah, one question. This is Mary Ann. It's not a question. I would just like to say how delighted I am and then ask for some help. What has finally happened, Joe Sullivan and I have been on this for so long, Bob. First word out of my mouth when they talk about LOSFA is no longer TOPS. TOPS just used to subsume everything else. And so what I've asked, this is just wonderful. And I'd like to ask Shane or somebody to write for me the 30-second elevator conversation that I can have when someone says, well, tell me about LOSFA. And one of the things, you know, when you go out and you got that down. You know, when you're feeding these parents at the markets and all of that, when our state just needs to encompass a lot more than TOPS, because that's the only way we're going to be really successful in changing a lot of stuff. And this is just tremendous. And maybe the 30-second elevator conversation would help educate people who are responsible for funding these programs. And I mean, I'm not jesting. I really would appreciate the elevator conversation. I could even open up on my phone. I'll find a place to save it, because I just tend to say TOPS, and that's not good enough. It needs to be totally different. And this is just really exciting, and kudos to you, to the executive director, and everybody. It is just game changing.
The team is tremendous, and you can see this is a tremendous amount of effort to say that this was our brainchild of LOSFA 2.0, and it has just taken flight. To tremendous credit to all of these folks in the room, and the folks upstairs and folks out.
Thank you.
There's a legislature on the
We are working hard at that, and, Shane, that's why he has the elevator draft, because we're trying to figure out how to take that and put that in bites to get that out to legislators and to their staffers, so that when individuals call their field offices, right, then they generally know, oh, wait, LOSFA does that. The last legislative session, one big point of pride for us is Shane and his team put together like a LOSFA 101. And we put upfront encouragement, this is the number of people assisted, this is the amount of dollars going out. And we were in Senate finance. And the conversations weren't going particularly well for people at the table. And what else? The senator who was the chair held up and said, this is what I'm talking about. They have very clearly here how many people are funded, how many people are assisted by the work we do in this building. You know, I wanted to jump up and down, but you can't, but you can do it inside. And so we want to do more of that, because those are where the problems come in as well to their offices, and for them to know, yes, we got one that was my farthest out request, but was also one of my proudest moments. Is an individual whose family wanted to move to Louisiana, and the child in K-12 had disabilities, and was told by someone that there were no services in the public schools in Louisiana for students with disabilities. That call came from a legislator's office directly to me. Now, why is that a point of pride? Because LOSFA doesn't do that, but they knew that LOSFA would find the answers and get to the person, and one of our comprehensive advising officers on our outreach coordinators teamed together, researched it, went down to the district that they wanted to attend, found a contact person, made the connect, and that student and that family are now getting services without us saying, I'm sorry, that's what we do here. No, we figure out government for people to serve students here. To your point, that ship that was Sweetest do top, that sailed so long ago, we can't see it from this side of the shore, and that's a great, so yes, we're gonna make that good work.
Let me just say one other thing that you all are doing. And I'm sure Joe will support me on this. There's always this outside thing that state employees, professional employees, just like that, whatever the better word is, and everybody is, and they make tremendous contributions, whether it's the legislative staff at the Capitol, the legislative staff at, in their offices, the LOSFA staff, the Board of Regents staff. We really have professional, helpful people that work in government or whatever, and that's crucial. And so when you get, this is just a high bar, and people, I just can't imagine the parent that's coming to the market to buy the tomatoes or whatever, and actually gets to have a conversation on a Saturday morning with someone who actually works for state government and says, wow, look what I got. It's really, it is just so refreshing, and kudos to all of you. You don't appreciate, I know it's, maybe it's not, if you don't appreciate all what you do, let me appreciate you even more for what you do.
Amen.
I'm finished.
You know what she said. Said it.
All right, Ms. Paula.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to do the information on scholarships and grants on behalf of Mr. Moore, who is out. We have no grants. We have a total of 23-24 total allocation for $70,480,716. For the fall semester, we have a total bill of $31,728,909. There's a remaining balance of $4,070, and that is due to money being returned after the deadline to use those funds. So it now becomes income out of bills. Go Grant has a total allocation for 24-25 for $7,480,715. Schools can begin billing after the 14th class day. On July 15th, a bulletin was sent out to the schools with their listed Go Grant allocations. Downward Justice, we have been receiving applications for public defense, from public defenders and prosecutors. The specialist is currently collecting documentation to make those awards. We will be awarding 5 public defenders with an award amount of $10,000 each, and 10 prosecutors with an award of $5,000 each. MJ Foster, since the application open date of June 1st, 2024. We have some new numbers that as of Monday, the total is 7,224 applications received. We have a total of 5,378 applicants. 458 applicants are renewal eligible. 1,211 are ineligible, and we have 177 represented as council or award fulfilled. Any questions?
Wow, no questions. Do we have an update on the funding for the shortfall for infant foster promise? Is that still in limbo?
It's still in limbo. In December, Revenue Estimating Committee is going to meet. And if
In
they,
December? As in-
yes, December of 2020.
We thought it was August,
Yeah.
but that was.
Yes. So Revenue Estimating is going to meet, and if they recognize the prior year carry forward, and for those of you who are we're not keeping up. In 2022, 2023, we did not spend the entire MJ Foster allocation. So, so there's $7 million left over from that year. If Revenue Estimating Committee recognizes that in December, then it's still not fine. There's another step called the VA7 process that has to be reviewed by the Office of Planning and Budget first, and then the Joint Legislative Committee on Budget. Those two things we have. And so we're at the mercy of JLCD meeting probably February. It's going to be hard for us to get, just being realistic, it's going to be hard for us to get on the January docket, just because I don't think they're going to allow it until REC recognizes it, and that's going to be December. So I'm not saying it's out of the question, but I would say not before February if it happens at all.
Yeah, they require me to get items that want considered for JLCB to them 3 weeks in advance at least. So depending on when REC meets, we might not be able to do that to them.
So,
And for JLC. Yeah, there's some things, yeah.
so in theory, so we're in a shortfall, like what, 2.5 million, I guess? Is that right? So what happens?
It's just over 2 million, I think. Yeah.
What happens to the other 3.5 or the other 4.5?
Well,
Let go.
the assumption is that we're going to probably be a little short this year as well. And then we will continue to fight the good fight, like asking a little more for MJ Foster as
And just so you know, one of the things we looked at, one question could be asked is, well, why not take this year's money and pay last year's bills with it? The legal issue that we have, and we do not feel like we have the authority to assume that, right, unintended, is that the law gives you the ability or a method to deal with the shortfall. And it says you shall fund these people first and not these party until funds are. That language doesn't say anything about you can go back and use next year's money to pay last year's bills. So without explicit direction legislatively that if somebody told you what to do in a shortfall, we don't think you have the authority to make up what you think you'd like to do in addition to that without legislative intent covering that. And we have not received that. And then the question that we asked However, the food change was like I would not make that assumption by myself. So this is the direction this is why.
One other follow-up question on DJ Foster. I know when we first started the program, it was, 10.5 million, it was all man for himself. There was a discussion about an allocation, sort of like Go Grant, but it's programs too new. Could there be discussions on what an allocation would look like now that we're almost 3 years in?
Well, the reason that we have not yet is because every year the program is changing. So I would like to have at least 2 years of solid data, at least 2, before we start making. And we might stretch that out a little bit longer.
Because year one was fruit basket turnover to year two, but you can't compare 1 and 2 at all, right? And year 2, the wait list went away. Right? And the limit on how much public could spend and how much proprietary went away. And then a new trend emerged, which was basically 50-50. If you're doing student choice, as does Go, as does TOPS, right? Basically, as does any other program that says you go where you want to go and the work will follow you. Now, if that trend continued this year and we can look at that, then that's what Robin's saying, that there's no major changes. If the legislature comes up and does a major change in year 3, then that may be, or you're going into year 4, then you're going to negate what you learned in years 2 and 3. So
If you have legislation for the allocations, we can do that.
Yes, we can do that in more. And the other thing that impacts this, of course, is the recent legislation that sets the age standards, right? We don't know how many 20-year-olds are going to take advantage this year who could not actually in 1917 for the next.
So it will become just like Go was in the early years. Remember that you kept adding a cohort, but your funding stayed stagnant for a long time. You don't see that, and once that kind of levels off, now we've had big increases, right? But now it's stagnant again. So there is a method, of course, that we're doing to adjust that every year based on usage. But if we get 2 years solid, then we can consider that. But certainly that is something that you would know about, the association would know about, as for those schools that will be impacted.
Well, and it would have to be how a bit general, how we would do that allocation. And I envision it would be something like we do for Go and for Go Teach, because Go Teach also has an allocation.
I have a quick question. How unique is the MJ Foster program nationally? You have an idea?
There are a lot of promise programs. I think ours is unique in the sense that it's for adults, or it started out being that way. 21 and over, the majority of promise programs, I would say, are high school. And the majority of them are last dollar, and we are probably one of the few that we're a hybrid model. But there might be one in the whole United States that's a first dollar, and most of them are all last dollar. It would be that I think ours is unique in the sense that it can fund what's adults, but it can fund also non-credit. Everything else is usually on the credit side. So,
And I assume that's all positive.
The industry sector.
yes,
And a lot of them.
And I assume that's positive.
I would think so compared to, well, I would say the national trend is looking at how to fund non-credit, and I know Louisiana, in particular, DJ Foster has been highlighted with National Skills Coalition and Rutgers on how to support non-credit programs. So I think it's unique in that.
Thank you.
Question?
The cost expenses today are showing 3.5% decrease compared to last year. And this is going to be our final numbers, so the tops won't change from here. I won't have meaningful tops numbers for this fiscal year until probably October. The only state university that showed an increase in tops compared to last year was Louisiana Tech, UL, For next year, TOPS is fully funded, $297 million, and that number comes directly from LOSFA projection tools, so it should be adequate to fund TOPS fully, including summer TOPS, unless there's odd things that happen and, it's sometimes there's odd things happen. As just a general fiscal year 24-25 budget notes, the Patriot Scholars Program received an additional $1.4 million, which increased the total to $3.7 million. We got an additional $50,000 for the Go Youth Challenge, MJ Foster Go Teach and Go Grant are the exact same in 24-25 as they were in 23. Just a general note, this is the first year since 2019 that Go Grant didn't receive an increase. If y'all remember, back then, it might have been, we may have asked for $80 million, and they gave us $1 million. The last 2 years, it's had sizable increases. So it's stagnant.
And information about the Clearview Challenge funding from now and go to the college and first year.
For the Go Youth Challenge, is that for new building? For the upcoming fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay. And then for the, and you said it. Patriot. There was a question about residual billing for 23-24, that there was still some, they hit the funding limit for 2024. Is the new funding applicable to that billing, or is that explicitly in here?
Yes, we are paying some.
In some, right, right, but anything prior to some of those, should have been billed and should have been paid for. Correct.
Okay, our spotlight is on you've heard about the comprehensive advising and the intake and advising, the whole structure. So now we've got a team of the folks that are closest to that work that are going to walk you through how that actually happens. And so I will yield the floor to them.
All right, I return to you all again virtually. And my role is just to introduce this phenomenal team that you're going to hear with a phenomenal outcome, phenomenal story. Let me present that first. If you can advance Shane back, or is it Rhonda? We can definitely start off by saying again, when Dr. Bousay presented the vision of LOSFA 2.0, and Shane, Ebony, and I set out to kind of do the schematics of what our comprehensive advising would look like. Some of you are new to the board, so I chose to just kind of share this advising workflow again, not going into details of it because it's in your packet, but it provided, to start off with at the top, the different points of entry through which a student can be referred to LOSFA for comprehensive advising services. Again, the intake officer receives the referral, can be one of a myriad ways as listed at the top there, but the intake officer plays a very critical screening point of contact role here. It's determining what the student's general need is. If it's something that can be readily met, they'll attend to it. If it's a complex issue, then it goes to an outreach coordinator within that respective roles that we now have for those positions. And so if we're working with the outreach coordinator, if it's a complex issue that now warrants further assistance, advising, hand-holding, monitoring, support, it comes through comprehensive advising officers. So whereby we do the one-on-one individual counseling of need, provision, exploration of wraparound services, scholarship discoveries, whatever it may be, researching whatever the need is, until, again, that CAO will remain with that student until the issue is resolved, or the student say, hey, I think I got it from here. So I just wanted to share that with you again. And you see the listings of LOSFA's various teams to the right that can come into play at any part of this referral. Next slide. In the student engagement presentation, I shared the numbers through July the 29th, and then also that monthly total for the month of July. This particular slide shows fiscal year end. We were talking about June 30th. So this is what case activity looked like as before we got into our now second year of servicing students through the comprehensive advising modality. So you see, we had in June 30th, 629 cases. Remember, I said we have at now August 7th, about 950. So again, you could do the math, but just wanted to show you that the direction, the pivot that LOSFA chose to take a year ago, we're celebrating that now. We're seeing the successes, we're seeing the outcomes and proof of concept as we continue to see, but also the affirmations that remain abounding. So I have the distinct opportunity to introduce to you our team. Again, as we get ready to hear, we selected one in particular cases. We have many, many stories that we're discovering that we could, but this one in particular was because of the nature of the request, the discovery of it, and how it showed all of the areas of LOSFA coming into play. So we're going to be led out in this spotlight by our comprehensive advisor, Delaracia Ventress, and then she will tell the story of this phenomenal outcome, but she will do so in partnership with our CASC team member, Anna Bro, who's at the table. And also our very own legal counsel, Ms. Robin, will share how did they come into play in this case. And then to what I've shared with you, the number one issue when cases come to us, scholarships and grants. So we have a member of the scholarships and grants team, Ms. Carolyn Martin, will share her role with it as well. So I don't know if the team is already positioned at the table, but while I was speaking, you guys could have been there. And we're going to go ahead on and yield to their sharing at this time.
All right, everybody, happy Wednesday. As Mr. Williams stated, my name is Delaracia Ventress, and I am one of the awesome, amazing, talented, comprehensive advisory officers. Shout out to my team because they're all here and I'm so excited. Okay, so as you guys know, since July 1st, 2023, LOSFA began delivering statewide comprehensive advisory service. The case that we're referencing today spotlights the collaborative efforts of the team given to a post-secondary student we will call Will Smith for project purpose. So first, let me say this, I was excited when I shared the results and just the roadblocks that we'll face with my team. Ms. Livonia likes to do something called round robin, where she likes to really get into your comprehensive advising business. So she wants to know, what was the highlight? What are the things that really got you excited this week? So for me, it was just being able to assist Will, because I empathize with his situation. Will is a student, graduating senior, majoring in physical therapy at the University of Louisiana at Monroe, who expressed determination to finish school. He also is a TOPS performance recipient, and he was awaiting TOPS exception approved based on continuous enrollment. Now, the part for me that really pulled on my heartstrings is that he shared that with this balance that he had waiting on his TOPS exceptions and everything to go through, he was going to utilize his wedding savings. He had a fiance, and she was pregnant at the time, so they were expecting a newborn baby. I've been engaged and I'm also a mother. So not that I worked on this case a little harder than anybody else's, because I was fresh out of onboarding, but I was like, I'm fresh out of training. I started sweating. I was like, I really have to help him. I want to give him the answer today. I want to find out how I can help immediately. But of course, I knew that Rome was not built in a day, and I would need a lot of it. So what I did was I reached out to my very personal partner in crime as relates to LOSFA, of course, Ms. Anna Bro.
So coming from a background in SB, so having kind of a foot in each boat, it was very important to make sure that my knowledge of the award system and kind of the ins and outs of TOPS processing and exceptions were made available to our new CAOs. And so I sat down with Delaracia and we went through Will's account and kind of just looked for, okay, where are the holes, what's missing, what can we do? And that's where we noticed, okay, this huge bill is, it was back payments for waiting on top. So we were able to dig into the exception, his exception screen, where we discovered that there was an approval hanging out with the previous day's date listed. So it was one of those, okay, this is good news, but this may just not have hit the system and it may not have updated. So we kind of talked about what that looks like and moving forward, what we can do in cases like this. And so from there, I referred Delracia to exceptions, which cues us into Robin.
So this student, actually, y'all have seen him. He was approved April 17th. Will Smith, I believe you call him.
Yes, please.
He was attending a school and his program of study for his doctorate had not yet been approved. It had been applied for, it was anticipated it would start in a certain year and it got delayed for a year. What's interesting to me about this particular case is not only were we able to help this one student, but we were able to help a number of others because when his exception request was approved, the Board of Regents gave us authority to approve other students in that same situation without having to go back through the entire process, because we were going to get a list from the school of other students in the situation. So that was the great thing about this account, and of course I notified everybody that the exception request was approved. And it had gone through, all that needed to happen was the school needed to bill for its award so that it has to have at least some of it.
And so Robin, she suggested that I reach out to scholarships and grants, and that is where Carolyn comes in. Upon reviewing the student's account, I found that he graduated in the summer of 2021. Based on information, he should have been enrolled full-time by fall 2022. However, the student received an approved exception for fall 2022. Through spring of 2024, and which has resulted into me on an in-house process for his fall payment process.
Which saved the student having to go to school and request all of that. She was able to expedite that. She was getting rid of that.
And so I was excited because, of course, I learned a lot of today, fresh out of onboarding. Let's keep that behind us. But I learned everybody's role specifically because when I reached out to Anna, we created a game plan for Will Smith, and she said, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Go, 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 go. And then I want you to report back so we can see. And she did a welfare check because I could be a little dramatic. Like I said, I started clicking. And so Anna was like, okay, at the end of the day, she said, how did it go? I said, well, Carolyn confirmed everything was processed and I was able to call Will, and just hearing the relief, you guys, in his voice to know that he wouldn't have to use his wedding thinking, because I felt his fiance looking at him on the phone. I promised Ms. Mitchell I don't want to do it, but I'll do it. So it was very, 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 it was heartfelt. It was just very important to see this through, and I felt accomplished sharing this during my round robin with my team. Of course, they were a little jealous because Mr. Loyan sang my praise. But what I love is that I was able to work with so many departments. They got to learn my personality. I got to learn theirs, and it was great. And I'm going to be quiet because I think Mr. Loyan wants to speak. Nope. Mr. Loyan.
We're good. Thank you, team, for sharing. But to Robin's point, had we not had that one case that was referred to us that required our services, it drew much larger implications to whereby a much larger audience of student population had to be attended. So thank you all for your contribution. And that's LOSFA 2.0 in action.
He's in the bed.
And actually, I think this brings it full circle, because when I looked at these slides, I just saw Will Smith and I didn't know the details of the case. That exception came to this committee. Yes. And so it really, in hindsight, we should have put you all there too, because had you not done what you did, this never would have gone to the Board of Regents, and we never would have had that round robin rule. Why would we just do, when there's smoke, there's fire? So when there's one student in this situation, we knew there's bound to be others. Somebody was on vacation, somebody was on this, on that. But again, we were able to get that approval to say, why would you have, now you heard that personal story from the student side of what it would have felt like for the others in that situation to be waiting on grown people to meet and do a job. It's like, that's really what it comes down to from the student's perspective. So thank you for being as involved as you all are and for supporting us so that we had the ability to go to the Board of Regents and say, we know there's more, right? Would you please give us the permission to address that? Our advisory team is okay with us not bringing every single one of the rest of them back to when another meeting is scheduled. So we can't thank you all enough for the support that you give this great team.
Which brings us to new business.
Yes.
We got more exceptions to our group, so do you want to talk about?
I don't know,
let's go through new business and then I can open it up for that. So top home study exceptions, information
So until recently, within the past few years, we were unable to give exceptions for home study students. And as you can see in these summaries that we provided, these students were unable to stay in a public or a private school situation due to circumstances that they had absolutely no control over. So because we are now allowed to give exceptions for this, the students provide documentation to us and we review like we always do and bring them to you for your review. These students were in situations that were untenable in their brick and mortar schools, and their parents elected to take them out after they had started 11th grade, and they are now.
right, so,
I have a question, Robin. I'm sure you will know this. The one particular exception that we're approving, which I have no problems with at all. Is there a timeline when they have to finish home study? The one was, she was supposed to graduate in May of 2024, but she then went into home study in January of 2024. And she was a senior. So is there a timeline when she has to finish this?
I believe that is the student who had some health issues.
That's right.
Correct. It wasn't per se a home study program that she entered in January as a senior. She was already a senior and she's gonna have a second year as a senior. She was hospitalized during January through almost the end of the year. And it was an arrangement with the school, the brick and mortar school that she was attending, that they allowed her to do some of her classes virtually. She was still technically a student at that school, but it was an arrangement that I had never heard of. And so they didn't want her trying to complete, because she only has 3 1/2 credits to complete.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to run her through summer school to get those done because of her particular circumstances. So they did say in the paperwork, it's anticipated she will finish by December, assuming that nothing else happens health-wise. So there's not really a deadline, as long as they file paperwork with LATOB and it's approved. And they have to certify it.
That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
all right, so, at this point, I need a motion to approve the attached request for exception. The top statutory provision that requires a student to be in a home study program no later than the conclusion of the 10th grade. Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Right, the next is some additional top exceptions, for, let's see, that's one. Sorry, the next is exceptions for COPS regulatory provisions that require students to remain continuously enrolled in credits. This is for both TOPS and MJ Foster.
So these are students who did not meet the continuation requirements for the program. Home study is for initial eligibility, this is for continuation requirements. Everything except for grades. We cannot give exceptions for grades for either program. However, we can give exceptions for failure to enroll full-time, failure to remain enrolled, such as when a student resigns, or failure to earn the required credit hours, or for MJ Foster to maintain steady academic progress in their program. Once we finish with the action items on this, y'all probably noticed that there are a number of these where financial circumstances played some sort of role. And that will bring us to this after the handout that you have, once we have taken action item. This is more special.
All right, so at this point, we need a motion to approve the attached request for exception to the TOPS regulatory provisions that require students to remain continuously enrolled and to earn the annual credit hours required during the academic year, and to the MJ Foster requirement that a student maintain continuous enrollment in school. Motion approved. Approved. In a second. Brad seconds. All in favor say aye. Any nays? Motion carries, and this brings us to our discussion.
So, as I noted, there are a number of these that have financial circumstances combined with something else. The current administrative rules provide that financial circumstances related to a student's ability to pay for school is not an exceptional circumstance. Those rules were put into place many years ago at the beginning of the program, around 1999 or 2000, when the TOPS award amount covered almost all of tuition fees. If you look at the very last sheet you have, that's not stated. It is a spreadsheet which shows you the percentages of what TOPS pays compared to tuition. It just gives you every 5 years or so, beginning in 0506. And you can see the percentages have steadily gone down to where now the percentage of tuition and fees covered by TOPS is as high as 70%, but as low as what, 51%? That average is, yeah. So this does not include the cost of attendance that the student also has to pay, which includes things like board and transportation, childcare, if a student has a child, and other circumstances. So, given that we have seen many circumstances where students cannot pay for school, we are wanting to talk to y'all about the possibility of deleting that provision from the administrative rules. We've had circumstances where students had so many financial issues that prevented them from going to school, and it wasn't really anything to do with their family lost a job or anything of that nature. One student had lost their only remaining parent died. We can give an exception to that student for 1 semester or death of the parent. But the next semester, the student was left with, had never filed FAFSA, and this was within the academic year, had never needed to file FAFSA, did not really know what it was. So their financial aid office was very understanding, and in that case, we didn't need to intervene, but the financial aid office was able to help her through it, but we couldn't give her an exception because that provision was in. The sole reason that she couldn't go to school was because she couldn't pay for it. If that provision had not been rules, we would have been able to assist her with an exception so she could sit out that other semester and get everything situated in her entire world, because she had just lost her only remaining parent and immediately had to go back to school. We've had other situations where the entire family was not wealthy or even had a moderate income. And the family could not pay to send to school, even after the student had taken out the maximum amount of loans that he was eligible for, had received the maximum Pell Grant that he was eligible for. This was one of those families that made just enough not to be eligible for any kind of home assistance. They were just making it to because they couldn't. This other handout is those that we have that this committee and, or that this board and the board of regents have approved over the past 5 years. Just to give y'all an idea of how this problem is increasing over the years. So there were only 2 in 2019. Obviously, there were lots in 2020 with the layoffs that occurred because of COVID. And then only 1 in 2021, but it does continue to increase in number. And if we take that provision out of the administrative rules, it will allow us to help more students. Obviously, we would not be creating exceptions when a student is unable to go to school because they didn't know what they were supposed to do. They didn't one semester, or they didn't meet their grades. They didn't meet the requirements of the program. And now all of a sudden they need to take a semester off. If it's solely their fault, that is something they had control over, that caused them for their award not to be paid. That's a different story than what we're talking about. These are things that are beyond the control of the student, but for which we cannot occur exceptions because the rules don't. So I just kind of wanted to get your input on that before I draft those administrative rules, deleting that provision. See what your thoughts were.
These would still come to you.
Yes, these would still.
So it's not like this is gonna put those into the objective circumstances that you don't see. You would still see these, and the board of regents would still see these. The chart that Robbie put in the back, you know very well, most of you who are in the financial aid, that the next sheet to that chart is when you add total cost of attendance. And each year that I'm asked to do that by the board of regents for the legislature, when I put that sheet up, they ask me what I did to the numbers. I didn't do anything to the numbers. I just added the total cost of attendance, not the cost of the role. And the numbers then of the buying power of TOPS is far, far from 50%.
As long as, and you mentioned, as long as it's paired with a circumstance that's related to it, then I'm completely on board with it. What I've seen a lot of the years of students who simply said, "Oh, I just can't go to school." Not any exceptional, maybe a parent lost a job or the parent is incapacitated or there's such thing, but it's just okay, well, grants long for the rest of the money. That's generally like that's not appealable for staff. It doesn't have a rule, so we're kind of using that as a standard. If it's paired with a circumstance that resulted in that scenario, then yeah, it's basically good move to it.
What did you recommend? You recommend, or y'all make recommendations?
We usually don't make recommendations for this. We wanted to bring it to you to get your thoughts on it.
Requires a change, us to take action to change the policy, right?
Yes, sir. And the rule.
And if there's some big problem with that, you would tell them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If they were, we would not have brought you the recommendation.
Right. Exactly. And next month, I will have the rulemaking for y'all to review and just see. It's simply a deletion of one line and 2 letters because there's, I believe, 8 or 9. It goes H through I. At least A will be deleted and then moved down. So that would be what that.
And then if there's input from guidelines that you would say, I would say that this is okay, I would say that this is not okay, then we would encourage you to send that to us so that that doesn't affect the drafting of the rule. Drafting of the rule is deleting it, but what that would impact is what we bring to you to recommend for approval. Like, we would know that you said in these instances, we don't consider that to be okay, because that would sap it. We definitely don't wanna be doing something over here that is contradictory to what you're doing at the campus level. So we welcome that input, that will help us craft what the student has to provide to us and filter that before it would even be presented to you.
Yes, so we could put that into our procedures for the top exceptions, which would really help out Amber. For those of you who do not know, we have one person on staff who processes every exception. And just a little information, last month we received 140 exceptions. And as of August 1st at about 10 a.m., we had already received 8 or 9 that morning. So July and August are generally going to be the busiest time of the month, of the year, I'm sorry. Because students are either realizing I'm not going to pass my summer courses, or my people came and my classes, you know, what do I do? At which time they send in an exception. So this is the busiest time of the year for exceptions.
I think for the financial ones too, we can consider, but you know, for staff, we always ask them, well, what happened? What are you doing to prevent it from happening again? And I think for the financial ones, if it's a one-time exception that we're doing, you know, like there was a financial issue, have this hardship, yes. But I do think that they need to be able to explain, like, okay, beyond this exception, how are you planning on, you know, paying in the future, because this is a one-time thing, or how long we do the exception for, but I don't want to, I would say I don't want to see a trend of like the same student coming back with the same exception every time. So I think maybe adding some type of like, well, how are you going to pay? Like, we don't pay it in the future, kind of thing.
And I will tell you, most times the students say, this is my plan for the future.
Okay.
I have a support system in place, I have this, I have this. In most of those cases, it's extremely personal what they say their plan is, but in the summaries, I can tell you.
Yeah, I think
Whether or not the student has a plan to address these issues.
I think as long as we have that plan, I would feel comfortable. And then I think that we're treating like situations like.
Yes.
If I had a staff appeal that had this one issue, I would say, yeah, I'm gonna approve you for one semester, but I'm gonna take action.
And to add on to that. The plan then I would say to the standard person is considered reasonable.
Yes.
Because I've seen a lot of students say, oh, good job, we make $30,000 this year. And I'm going to get a job, and I have a job that started, so it's, you know, it's like, is this realistic that this is going to help remediate your situation? The standard vernacular that we use a lot of times is, how will the circumstance not be issue?
Yes.
Generically, and then so they're addressing it relating to the circumstance itself, and then the plan has to be relevant.
And Mr. Myers, we'll make sure that working with legal, that we collect the data on these special ones if it is changed, so that we can come back and explain, this is the trend we've seen with them, this is what we're doing, so that if it's not working, we can make tweaks and stuff. Or if it is, and we can expand it or do something else, we can do that as well.
And, you know, also note, the in-house committee who reviews these before they come here is composed of several members of the staff. Audit, who has a very vocal presence in the committee to tell us that doesn't match the precedent. And we have a couple of people from the scholarships and grant staff, and you know, someone from RBI is more than welcome to attend. That would be fantastic to have an additional approval level person in that group.
It's also phenomenal that many of our CAOs and outreach coordinators are in the room hearing this discussion, because the young man that they talked about in that case, right? or cases like that, when they come to them, now they have firsthand knowledge to go, you're going to need a plan, right? And the plan has to be realistic, because notice the trend that we're already seeing in the data. The most requested reason that we open up a CAO file is not that I don't have financial aid, but I do not have enough financial aid to help me stay in school. Can you please help me get more money to pay for school besides loans? That is the number one request by far. That's the reason. So that really feeds into this, so that we can approach this holistically with students saying, okay, well, what are our plans? What do you have? What do you plan to do? That's not going to be sustainable, saying you're going to get an exception for every time. That's more than likely gonna be a one-time thing, unless you got like the student that was ill. Like, and no, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to work. That's probably in a totally different category and not under just not ability, inability to pay.
Right, and one of the things that we put in the past, kind of, again, standard verbiage is not exclusive in a sense, but we put something in that says, appeals on this specific circumstance may not be, future appeals may not be approved based on this same circumstance that we're approving on today, just to kind of say like, you can't keep referring back to this, we may still approve it if it's, you know, there's a second change to the financial situation that occurred, sure, but it's kind of like, get one and we'll reevaluate as one. Exactly.
I got one or two forever. But sometimes we see the same grandma who died every time. So, you know, we just question,
What do we think is, or how, is there something that we can do as a commission or to make the financial aid people on your campuses more comfortable with this? How are they going to respond to this? Are they going to be pleased? Are they going to be more uncomfortable? I just want to make sure that.
Hey, my folks are fine.
Yeah.
Is there anything that needs to be done to help them? That's what I'm, you know, like put something in.
I don't think there's anything specific, more or less,
They don't see the exception. I mean, they just see that an exception was approved.
they just.
Well, and they, you know, I don't even know that they see that, because my understanding of the way the award system works, when the exception is approved in the award system, the student reappears on the master roster as eligible for a certain term. Now, if the college does not run it on a regular basis, run the master roster and, you know, download it so that they can see it, students will sometimes show them their student code, in which case they will see. Or colleges have access to look at the award system on a case-by-case basis to see was the exception granted, but in general, we don't hear a whole lot about it.
I think it's a lot of just more referring students, if you're talking to a student, lots of tops, or explaining what happened. Saying, okay, submit an exception, as long as campuses are aware that, hey, this is a possible exception, this is approved, related, and they can refer the student at that point, knowing that that is now a viable pathway. Right.
And one of the things, legal and audit are working together right now, with LOSFA 2.0. Audit has gotten some data from the college and university, but we're working on like creating a college advisor group. So that if the student goes to their advisor and they say, I have to drop out because my dad died, that advisor is aware if that student is on TOPS, like the implications of that, and because a lot of times these kids get advised incorrectly. So we're trying to work on creating a work group for that, between legal and audit and tax really, and student engagement, to know that, you know, to be able to start that in fall, so that if a student does go to their advisor, because it's not just financial aid and admissions that always is done.
Sometimes it's a baseball coach.
I know, Mary Ann asked a couple of questions when we first started, just on an update on like basketball related stuff, because it's been spicy the last couple of weeks. So I can think of like 4 major things that came out. So, the very first one that came out was, it's about conflicting information. So those who work with financial aid know that if you see something that looks conflicting, right, you were to verify that information. The department provided a plan of action for how to handle certain conflicting information, particularly those individuals who indicated they need 0 income. But when they did the transfer of data from the IRS, it showed income. So the Fed said, this is how you work to correct these issues. And then most recently, they came back and said, haha, never mind, we changed our mind. You now need to go back and review all of those that you already corrected. And you now need tax return information on all of those students. So that's one of the biggest changes. That's one of them. The second thing that happened most recently is that we've been waiting for batch corrections from the Department of Ed since the launch of the FAFSA. They said it would be available in August. It's not coming out at all. So what that means is that your administrators now have to manually go in and make all of these corrections one by one. And there's additional like security requirements and like logins because now you're connecting directly with the IRS now. So it's not just like an easy like make a correction, like it's way more complicated. So for your schools who disperse early, so you can disperse 10 days prior to the start of the term. So let's just say I want to disperse today. Well, that could delay my disbursements for anyone that I need to have corrections on. Now, mind you, in the last couple of days, people haven't even been able to get into the federal sites to make those corrections because there's an issue with passwords. It's happening with everybody. The third is the FAFSA opening date. They will do a soft launch October 1st. A subgroup set of students that we don't know what that subset looks like, but it is not going to be open to the public on October 1st. It will not open to the public likely to December 1st. So the department has basically just said, we are not going to do anything extra for 24, 25. We're going to try to make 25, 26 better. But what they don't understand is that we have a whole entire year of 24, 25 to process. And someone made a comment recently. They said, over the course of an academic year, I make 800 corrections, with 90% of them being in August. So 800 corrections for a small institution of like one-man shops, it's a lot of manpower to do that does number of corrections. So it's just slowing down the entire process for financial aid administrators. It could delay enrollment decisions. Third-party servicers who had planned to do batch corrections now have to pivot because now they're going to have to do manual corrections on behalf of the colleges. And then the last thing is gainful employment reporting that is due October 1st. And we have fought to try to get that changed and delayed in light of just all of the challenges with FAFSA. And they're just keeping forward, saying, of course, they have not delayed that as of yet. We still have time to claim. But like for our institutions, for example, our student information system will not have that release until the 19th of September. Mine is due October 1st. So it means I have to get it on the 19th. I have to install it. I have to test it. I have to make sure it's right. There's no way we'll make the October 1st deadline, which means we're going to have to create a homegrown solution to report all of that data on October 1st. Or we could just say, I'm not reporting it. And that's what the sentiment is, and a lot of administrators right now is like, I'll just take the date, you can leave me, I'm not reporting it right now, I've got other things that I've got to focus on. Right, they're trying to focus on getting the students to their report and reporting this data.
And speaking of FAFSA issues, it's very likely we are going to see exemptions because of FAFSA issues.
Yes, that's true. Amy, I was going to ask you about that. How are the schools helping the students that maybe are in the processing area to grad U2? How are they helping them so that they don't have the classes dropped and stuff? Are they giving them more time to pay or how we? So like, we're gonna have a crazy.
Well, you know, you got a financial aid office and you got a CFO office, who are likely in competition with each other, and CFO can care less. Being really transparent about, they just want their books clean. So our colleges, we have said, in light of these challenges, we really encourage you to purge protect as many students as you can. So if they see a FAFSA and they see an SAI, put a purge protection on them. This is unprecedented times. So some of our colleges are doing that.
What exactly is the purge protection?
It protects students from not being dropped from not paying. So a CFO says, I can care less, if there's no money, I'm purging everyone. A financial aid or student enrollment management, they're like, no, please purge protect everyone you possibly can, because your numbers are what you're paid on. They don't pay you to protect people as you possibly can, so I would say we have a couple of different.
What kind of, I know that's an it's all protocols, except yeah, lots of different things, I mean, just people in the barbershop asking us questions and stuff.
And I would say
There's
that's
lots of kids.
like for community, for us, we don't disperse until after 14 class day, so our disbursement is well into September, which I would say puts us a little bit of an advantage compared to like the four departments who typically disperse a lot earlier, so we got a little more time, I would say, to help manage some of this, whereas the four community. So
And then we, for that population of students, we already identified who they are, we've already worked them, done our corrections initially. We know what their eligibility is, and I want to point out something important about this. The corrections that we did, the initial way the Department of Education managed that, they basically said transpose the data that came in from the IRS into the students' data fields, send a correction, and we'll give you their SAI. So the current transactions that we have represent accurate aid eligibility based off of these student accounts with very, very little variance for other fields that might have to change later. It's the actual tax statement. So what we're doing is we're communicating with the students about the situation. And then for those students that need some documentation, we are not removing the aid packages that we put on their accounts based off of the accurate ESAI. And then we're leaving that aid out there as anticipated while we collect these documents, but with the students understanding that if they don't submit these, that aid goes away. So it's just to the benefit of the students. We're not going to penalize the student for the Department of Education flip-flopping a month after they issue guidance, saying, well, just kidding, now we need all these documents. So we're making sure the students are informed about the situation, but we're also going to make sure that we're not penalizing either because of this. Mainly, if it was a situation where we didn't have confidence that the aid that we packaged is accurate, it would be an entirely different story. But we've already transposed the actual tax data from the IRS into the field that it needs to be and reran the SAI calculation, got a valid SAI based off of actual tax data, and the work rate of that. We had a number of students because of this error that had their aid flip-flop, that Palo Alto before, no longer Palo Alto. But we updated those aid packages to make sure that aid packages are accurate to reflect that. And so it's frustrating, but obviously it is what it is. And so we're just gonna make sure that we are communicating with the students, but they kind of have to be accountable as well. That, any standard verification, it's like verification, you have to submit the documents or aid is canceled. So this isn't any different than any other year in this scenario. This just happens to be after we've already made corrections. So it's kind of accurate, so to speak. Related to some of the major other things, I did want to point out this one because I thought it's frustrating, but I understand it. So this year, the Department of Education implemented a new identity validation process for individuals without Social Security. They're going to cross-reference it against credit agencies to try to confirm these individuals, and there's just been problems with that entire process. So they have foregone the identity validation process for individuals without Social Security number for this year. They have also decided that they will extend this flexibility and not implement any form of restricted status for students who are particularly without Social Security number for next year. So this means that they tried to roll this out, unsuccessful, so they're just hitting the brakes on it, saying, we're not doing identity validation for the individuals without suspicion. So, that is a pretty important deal because we do have a number of students that fall into that scenario that were previously held. In addition to that, really just some, I won't say minor, but semi-minor. A lot of the fast portal functionalities, including ICE requests, year-to-date ICE stuff like that, ICE repairs won't be available for multiple years. So they have delayed it to, they're saying until 26-27 at this point. So that is it's not, I mean, it's a problem, but it's not a problem. Year-to-date, you can do if you need to catch up and maybe somebody fell out or maybe an ICE didn't come, you could request a one-off ICE transaction sent to you to fix that. In this case, at least for the next 2 years. The other part that I haven't seen an update on, I need to follow back up on, was the secondary or DHS is still working. So for individuals that identities are not initially confirmed with the Department of Homeland Security, it does a secondary match to try and confirm that they are an eligible non-citizen or an ineligible citizen or any of these values, and that's still not working. So a lot of these students are stuck in limbo because we can't award this first aid, we can't confirm they're an eligible non-citizen without that secondary match. It's not their dollars. And so a lot of those students are stuck still. So we're hoping that gets updated a little sooner than later. Smaller subsets of populations comparatively, but still more populations. So those are the two.
And paper applications are gonna be processed too, I think, starting this month.
They're processing paper applications starting, I think, this week, but they also said that they're not going to be processing paper corrections until the end of September. So somebody has to make a correction to that.
Just pray for financial aid friends, the hurt camps, and all the love and prayer.
Y'all volunteer to buy a round of drinks from the
Yes.
school.
I have a greater appreciation for work.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions? Comments? All right, our next meeting date is Wednesday, September 11th. And now I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Can I have a second? Thanks. All right, all in favor say aye. All right, motion carries. Thank you, guys. You have lunch, if you ordered your name on your lunch, thanks to Anna and Casey Holly in that. So did not order or order extra, so you can pick up whatever is extra.